Thank you for being on our show, Trav. We're really excited to have you here. And so you're known across the globe as the bucket list guy.
I am. Yes, someone called me the bucket list guy about 10 years ago. So it was, I put on how this happened is, for the first 20 years of my working life, I was one of the first personal fitness trainers here in Australia when it was a starting off industry. And I, straight out of university, I started doing personal training, and I started personal training with one client, and then then we had tens of thousands of clients over the course of 20 years, nearly 2 million plus personal training sessions, founded and franchised the first personal training business in Australia. I did that, like I said, for 20 years. Always loved helping people, in their health and fitness. And but the breakdown before breakthrough moment came when I went through a bout of depression myself, and there was business and life stuff getting on top of me, relationship stuff getting on top of me, and I, instead of actually going on heavy sort of antidepressants, I found myself going, no, I don't want to be a zombie. I don't want to sleepwalk. I want to get to rather than put a Band-Aid over the top of it, I wanted to get to the psychology of it all and really understand what I was going through. So I found myself in personal development events, learning life coaching and neuro-linguistic programming and positive psychology, walking on fire, at events on weekends, and hugging it out and high-fiving it with strangers. You cry on my shoulder, I cry on yours, and sharing, oversharing, breaking boards, bending bars, breaking arrows, all that personal development stuff, rah, kind of. And it wasn't until a friend of mine, sort of at the end of about a 1.5 year period, and by the way, all that stuff really helped me. A friend of mine said, "Why don't you teach this shit?" and I went, that gave me, sort of helped me, gave me cause for why I was there in the first place. So it actually really helped compartmentalize the problems that I was going through at the time with the depression. So if I, and I've given that advice to a lot of people, if you've got a problem, go out and teach it. And it's amazing how much healing you get out of that. And so I put on a talk. I had to sum up the courage, put on a talk. It was crap compared to the ones that I give now. But it was for me, it was the big domino that I felt like I had to push over at that time of my life. So I did it, shit myself. I really had to pay for the 40 people that came to that. I really had to pay them to be there. I packaged in all the stuff that I've been learning. About 3/4 of the way through, I started sharing my list to do before I die. I always had one written down since I was 18, and not a lot of people knew that about me. And it really inspired everyone. And at the end of it, Joe, one of the clients there at the time, said, "How's all this list to do before you die stuff? It's really fired everyone up. It's like a bucket list. You're like the bucket list guy." And I went, ping, light bulb moment. And then I went home and registered the bucketlistguy.com, and I've been doing that ever since. And really, the underlying philosophy of the whole thing is really positive psychology. It's really about helping people lead more, identify and then lead more meaningful, purposeful, fulfilled, grateful lives. I just do it, which is the foundation or the pillars of positive psychology. I've just put this brand of bucket list over the top of it to make it more tangible. And so really I've built this thing to help me, to help my former self. And consequently, I've had the real privilege to be able to go out and help other people who are going through stuff as well, and help them turn the lights on before it's too late, or help them, stop them just existing and start living again, stop them living by default and now living, intentionally by design. And that's what it's all about, just through this filter of bucket list.
What about helping your former self? What about that's important to you?
Well, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of unhappiness, and a lot of mental health issues. And to be honest, there's the big drivers for me is that depression, even worse now with COVID and everything going on, and let alone the presidential race. But you've got, depression, anxiety at unprecedented levels, like the overprescription of antidepressants at unprecedented levels, suicide, youth suicide, which really gets me going, We've even got this thing now called the loneliness epidemic. It's a real thing. Google it. It's the adverse effect of social media. So, and I know in America that 87% of people who go to work every day are what they call disengaged. That's 87% of people are just not into what they're doing on a day-to-day basis, just getting the paycheck and going home. And that for me is hamster on the treadmill. Hamster on the wheel? Mm-hmm. Person on the treadmill. But it's, there's a lot of people that are just, I say, dying at 40 and being buried at 80.
Is that how you felt? Is that how you felt, like you were dying in your
100%, like it's I luckily I got my head out of that state of mind, but being in depression is pretty full on, and it's a downward spiral. Anything like right now, anything that would be going on in the world, whether it be Trump and Biden and COVID and Black Lives Matter or whatever it is going on in the world, that just compounds and weighs, heavier and heavier. When you're going through that sort of stuff, especially depression, it becomes more burden, more weight, more sadness, more reason to think in a negative way. And like attracts like as well. So before you know it, this downward spiral is like a cyclone, and it attracts everything else around it and sucks it into that vortex. A pill is not the way out of that, reverse engineering all that and getting to the heart of the psychology is what it's all about. And, for me, that's the route that I took. But these things really fire me up. These things is the reason why I exist. And I can talk to an audience of 1,000 people and guarantee that 30% of them are going through exactly what I've been through, if not worse. And, the reason why I do what I do is to go out and by the way, not everyone's depressed. There's some people that just need a bit of icing on the cake, to give them that spark back, to help them to recalibrate on what gives them meaning, not for just their sake, but also for their family's sake as well.
I watched your TED Talk, and great video, by the way, but you had mentioned the importance of separating the to-do list from your bucket list. And maybe can you explain to our listeners what the difference is between these two lists and why it's so important for people to separate them?
Yeah, well, it's important to separate them. Most people I speak to have got a bucket list. Yeah, have you got a bucket list? Yep. Where is it? It's in my head. Okay. Have you actually written it down? No. All right, so it's still up in your head. All right. The whole process of actually separating the daily to-do list from the bucket list is to help people really take time out of their lives to work on their lives. The bucket list only becomes a priority when you're staring down the barrel of a use-by date, or something traumatic or dramatic happens to you or a loved one. And suddenly the bucket list, you become infinitely resourceful and because you've got this use-by date and suddenly the bucket list takes priority. But we are so busy being busy. That's the problem. We're so busy being busy. It's like this weird ass badge of honor that we carry around with us. And when people say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm just so busy," what are you bragging or complaining? Well, I don't know, but it's now I've found myself saying, "Are you good busy or bad busy?" And I found myself saying, "Am I good busy or bad busy?" I'm good busy at the moment. That's a good thing, but being busy is not cool. It's like, well, that just says to me that you've got no time for anything else in your life. And I want to. I guess be a spokesperson for just helping people to take time out of their life to work on their life, and I say a bucket list is a tangible life plan where our career plan or our business plan should fit into our life plan and not be the other way around. and really bringing home this work to live principle. And right now, our to-do list is up there with our bucket list swimming around in the soup, but it's our daily to-do list which gets done first. And again, it's not until something traumatic or dramatic happens to us or a loved one that we suddenly, reprioritize that. Now we live in a delayed gratification society. I'll be happy when syndrome, waiting for the perfect time or some day to come around. And often it doesn't come around, like we hit our 401k, we hit retirement, we sell off the business, we do whatever. And, through the stories of examples of our parents maybe that have worked their guts out and not necessarily been happy their whole life, work their guts out and then get to the retirement and they've had 5 to 10 good years and then it's gone. It's like, is that why something's broken. So the reason why I want, and a bucket list isn't, as you saw in that TED talk, it's not just about travel, it's about all the other little things that you can do as well. I'm into delayed gratification, of course, but I'm most important, I'm into instant gratification as well, because this helps a person choose happiness now rather than wait until later on.
What would you say to the people
later on?
What would you say to the people who think that instant gratification is unhealthy as well, of just having
you guys
too much
are in
right now?
Vegas, so instant gratification is very hedonistic. I think, it's not about hedonism. It's about doing the things that you can do now. That's why I created that My Bucket List Blueprint, is to help people create a personally meaningful and holistic bucket list that is very tangible, that it gives you a whole series of tangible end steps to get out of bed in the morning for. Right now during COVID, we can't do it, all the expensive travel and go and see the man-made wonders of the world and all that sort of stuff. So what can we do? Well, a lot of people are writing books right now. A lot of people are putting out songs a lot of people are learning languages, taking up new hobbies, learning stuff online. People are really experimenting, doing their own apps, writing technology, learning new skills.
Podcasting, that's us.
Podcasting, I think the whole world, anyone that can speak has now got a podcast. In the last 6 months, we're all failing forward faster, but and it's not just about doing one thing, then check that off and then do the next. It's literally, I'm doing 5 things at the moment, and it's all about having this more of a tangible life plan that you can do now rather than later on. It's about choosing happiness. Really, that's what it's about. All right. And it's not just about writing the list either. It's really about how we reverse engineer every aspect of our lives in order to make this stuff come to fruition. It's the growth of us on this journey towards these self-imposed destinations, call it a bucket list. But more importantly, this is what I want people to get excited about. It's about the person that exists on the other side, and the person that we don't know yet. That's called our potential, right? And that's what I want people to get really curious about. Like, what are you really made of? What are you curious about? What are you excited? Are you passionate about discovering about what the person that exists on the other side? I think that's the human experience, right? That is the human experience, if you ask me, is discovering all of everything that we can be.
Right. And
not what our parent, not fitting into a fucking mold, not fitting into what our peers and our parents. And this is a self-exploration exercise.
And you're someone who has been in, I think I heard you say it in a different show, that you went from PT, personal training, to personal development. So you're someone who has naturally, or would you say someone who's naturally worked on themselves and worked on developing either themselves physically or mentally? What would you say to the people though who maybe don't have that initial drive that you may already have?
I don't say, whatever I'm very careful as a coach, and I've been a coach obviously my whole life, is I don't impose my model of the world onto someone else. That's way too presumptuous, and it's way too cocky, and we get into this comparisonitis, and it polarizes people. If someone comes in and you should live your life like this, you'd be like, no, dude.
Mm-hmm. For our listeners who
you don't know you don't know what's going on in your life, so fuck you.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd ask, oh, okay, well, what are you happy? Are you fulfilled? Do you have meaning in your life? Do you have purpose? And if you can go, yep, and I'm like 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10, that's good for me, then sweet. We don't need to have a conversation. But if there's gaps, then we do. All right.
It seems
so.
through
Here's some suggestions. Here's a perspective. Try it on. Try it on. Try that on, and see how you. Here's some examples from my life. Map it into your world if you want to. But I'm not sitting here. The last thing you want to hear from a coach, if anyone says you must, you have to, you need to, you should. They're programs. That's programs of necessity. That's programs of comparison. So I'm not imposing my model of the world on you. It's just another set of glasses to look at your life through. Try them on if you want.
I like that. And it seems that you use your bucket list as a tool to help people connect with their passion and their purpose. And so that kind of just makes me want to flip the script on you. So what is one thing that you've learned about yourself while on this journey that's had maybe the most positive or profound effect on your perspective of life?
I've realized by doing a lot of talks around the world that that I've been the only freak in the room in a lot of circumstances. In saying that, I'll look out at over 1,000 people and go, oh yeah, who's got a bucket list? And everyone's like, yeah, I have. Who's got one written down, like literally written down, and don't bullshit me? And they're like, yeah. Some are just like, nah. Some are like, yeah. And I point them out. I go, those with hands like this, you haven't really done it, have you? You're just sort of showing off in front of your colleague, aren't you? Yeah, I haven't got one written down. Okay, so all right, let's just, I've, and this is so basic. Remember that it's crazy. These things. It's called paper and it's called a pen. I know, crazy. And remember these things?
Yeah.
I know. Yours has got nothing on it, but that's not the point.
That's right.
It's got a line on it. All right. So the point being that if you actually just write shit down, like goals, let alone a bucket list, it's amazing what can happen. 42% more likelihood of them actually manifesting if you just write stuff down. There's actual studies of the nature of slowing down to actually write is more of a consciousness exercise than actually typing into a phone, believe it or not. It actually has more of an effect by going analog versus digital. So for one, I've realized that I've been obviously a list writer, I've been a goal writer, I've been a bucket list writer, for most of my life. And just the mere, and just realizing that shit, I go into a corporate and I say, hey, write your goals down. And I've discovered fucking fire, like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, what are we doing here? Guys.
Trav, you're obviously very knowledgeable and you're very passionate about this.
Passionate, knowledgeable, not the same thing.
No, you definitely know what you're talking about, and you've got the studies and the positive psychology. I get all of that, but I really want to get to know you and want to know why you think this is your calling. What is it about telling people this that fuels you?
Okay, so I'll give you an example and a bit of a spoiler alert. There's certain times, like when Joe called me, you know, he said, "Oh, you like the bucket list guy back 10 years ago." I just felt right. It was a reflection of my values, which is our internal rule book. And I knew, I had no idea how I was going to monetize it. I knew I wanted to do a bit of speaking, but I had no idea that it'd end up like this. So it just felt right, you know, and if it's ticking all the boxes in terms of your values, you know, there's something there. And then it's funny because the coach said to me really early on, you know, like, I want to go out there and be a speaker, and fucking Tony Robbins can do it, I can too. Yeah, good on you. The voice of doubt, that imposter syndrome. I said to him, look, you know, who am I to go out there and inspire people? I've really done nothing. You know, a lot of people in personal development that have slept up, you know, they've spent their life homeless, or, you know, been bankrupt and, you know, slept under a bridge, and, or been in this relationship and, you know, this rags to riches, or, you know, massive trash to, oh, well, you know, growth. And I'm like, and I was in a lot of these personal development events. I'm hearing some horrific stories of people that have been through all sorts of shit in their childhood and then come out the other side. I'm like, I had a really good childhood, and my parents actually, they were middle class. They had a bit of money. I haven't slept under no bridge. I haven't had to, you know, sell my body to get by or any shit like that. I've had a pretty good upbringing. Am I really worthy of speaking about personal development here? Because I haven't been through shit compared to a lot of the other people. But it was funny, you know, a couple of examples. One is I was in one of the later personal development events, and I teamed up with this lady by the name of Deb. Now, Deb, a 50-plus-year-old lady, and she's like, oh, you know, you share, I share kind of moment. So I shared, you know, depression, going through this stuff, bit of business stuff going on, legal, blah, blah, blah. Said my story. She's gone, oh, that's all well and good, Trav. And I said, what about you, Deb? And she said, yeah, I have just had a hysterectomy, and now I'm cleared of cancer, and I really wanted to have kids. And I just, it just ruined me. Still does. And I'm like, line in the sand for me. That was one of those moments where I just went, mate, what the fuck are you complaining about? Really? Like, you've got excellent health, you've got a great family, you've got, like, how dare you not play the biggest game that you possibly can, and you've got no fear around public speaking, and it's everyone else's worst fear, and you seemingly don't give a shit. So how dare you not go big? That's what I got out of that. And then all these, you know, and still with imposter syndrome, my coach at the time said, even though you've got that reptilian brain going, keeping you, you know, keeping you safe, which is what it does, you know, don't go out there, you'll get embarrassed, you know, public humiliation, you'll stuff it up. I said, what about that? And he said, no, you know, the best way to do that, and even though that voice inside your head might be really loud, go out and help as many people as you possibly can. I bet their adulation and their feedback and reinforcement will drown out that noise inside your head. No truer word has been spoken. So I just went out there and helped people. And, you know, lastly, the spoiler alert that I mentioned earlier was I did a talk for the Reach Foundation. Reach Foundation is a personal development program for kids, you know, wayward teens, and they were the leaders. I raised money for the Reach Foundation, and set up by an ex-AFL footy player here in Melbourne, in Australia. And really cool legacy. To be a leader of the Reach Foundation, you have to have gone through the program and graduated to become a leader. And I said, thanks for, you know, raising money for the Reach Foundation. I said, my pleasure. We'd love for you to come down and do a talk for us. I said, oh, I'd love to. So about 50, 60 young adults in the room, and no one over the age of about 23. And I gave a talk, my normal kind of talk. And then right at the end of it, this girl got up in front of everyone, and she was bawling, crying her eyes out, and I said in front of her, "What's wrong?" And she said, "If my younger sister had been here to see your presentation today, she wouldn't have killed herself 2 weeks ago."
Oh.
And I went, oh, and I still, to this day, that was these little moments of gratitude and also little pieces of feedback like that really cements your why, really cements why I do what I do. Going back to your original question, these are the things that drive me to one, be a speaker, be a coach, and now we've got certified bucket list coaches in 22 countries around the world and growing. And it's just like now we're scaling out the message, and these positive psychology tools are actually going out there through this lens of bucket list and helping even more people. So, and I'm not happy. I don't feel I'm ticking the box for me if I'm only helping a handful of people.
That was very powerful. Melissa, I know you had a question.
Oh no, he answered.
He did. Okay, good. The how dare you not be? I did write it down. That's what I was waiting for. I was how dare you not be?
You've probably got listeners. You've probably got listeners and watchers in this too, and everyone's got maybe a story within them too. And I coach a lot of speakers. I mentor a lot of speakers, or people that have got a story within them. And I say this from my heart too, if you've got a story of where you were to where you are now, and there's a lot of bumps in the road, and it could be an abuse story or a rags to riches kind of deal, or whatever it is, breakdown before breakthrough, confusion before clarity. There's so much learning in our individual stories that needs to be told through some format, through some medium, whether it be a podcast or a book or a speech or whatever, because there is a shitload of people that need to hear it. And if anyone's got a story like that, how dare you keep it within you?
I like it. That's actually something City and I have talked about in terms of why we started this podcast, in terms of specifically around mental wellness, mental health, self-care.
Yeah.
And providing those tools such as you do in terms of just speaking it to truth. It's our truth, and to voice it because someone out there needs to hear it.
There's so many stories out there, but so few people will actually go out there and tell it and inspire through them.
What actually helped you though quiet down that voice when you heard that question come up for you? How dare you not go be?
That I'm, in the work that I do as the bucket list guy, I come up against, in every presentation I'm saying, you've got 80 years, 80 years on earth. And, if you're 40, half of them are gone, and we don't know when or if we're going to get a diagnosis, just like the movie. And so I'm acutely aware of how much time we've got left. And probably more acutely aware than, because I'm conscious to it all the time. So I'm bringing it into conscious every time I do a talk, every time I do a podcast. So I'm acutely aware of this, more so than others. And I just know that I want to live a regret-free life rather than a regret-full life, and I wish that for others. And so I would live a regretful life if I did not go out there and try and influence as many people as I possibly can while I'm here.
How important is that to you?
Massively important. It's my why. It's my form of philanthropy, which I can't even talk right now. I need a coffee. But but that makes me fulfilled, and it gives him purpose, it gives him meaning, and a goal to go after. And at the end of the day, don't worry, that's not my only driver, but it's certainly one that, I've got 4 kids in my life now, and I'd love to change the narrative. I'd love to change the conversation around mental health, like seriously change it. And through the scaling of and the leverage of through our coaching community around the world, and our team and stuff, I think we can have a real crack at it, you know, and look, make as big an impact as we possibly can while we're here.
I love that. And I think, you know, having a bucket list and connecting with your passion and your purpose is so important. And I know, you know, through several talks that we've had with, you know, guests or listeners, that oftentimes the obstacles that are in our way are self-imposed. So
Yeah.
what would you tell people that maybe feel that they cannot achieve what's on their bucket list due to time or financial constraints?
Well, yeah, a bucket list doesn't have to be expensive or time consuming, you know, but I do know this, it's not when it comes to your bucket list, it's not a matter of resources, time and money. It's a matter of resourcefulness.
Mm.
And when the why is strong enough, the how will work itself out.
Oh, I like that.
Right. So I know a young girl, she was 16, 17. She really wanted to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. So she ended up with a dad or mum and dad. So she worked out a way to go on a Kickstarter, launch a program where she did it for charity, raised the money for her own ticket, raised a bunch of money for a local school or something like that. I forget the cause, but she wanted to do it really, really bad. So she found another way, not out of savings, not out of mum and dad's pocket, but out of the tools that are available. And she just got really resourceful and looked laterally at the situation. And I think, so it's funny, isn't it? Because people become infinitely resourceful when they get given a use-by date. Suddenly they've got the time, suddenly they've got the money, and suddenly they reconnect with who they need to reconnect, and they take those risks that they've always been wanting to take. But it shouldn't happen on the back of a diagnosis. So again, you know, there's a lot of stuff that people think that they want to do, but they don't really want to do. You know, like, the classics are, you know, skydive. Nah. Bungee jump. Nah. Run a marathon. Do an Ironman. Nah. They're on a whole other list called the fuck it list. Fuck that. I don't want to do any of that stuff. And so, you know, like, I know when I go out and do a presentation, you know, I've got this video clip that introduces me. And it's me running, you know, surfing waves around the world and running marathons and Ironmans and jumping off stuff and climbing mountains and blah, blah, blah. And I know that, you know, it's to my favourite song, and it's a little bit like a Red Bull fucking commercial. And then I know that when I come out, like, you know, I'm talking to middle management at a telecommunications company or something like that, or a law firm or an accountancy practice or whatever. You know, and I know that after my, you know, there's a business breakfast, I know most of them are sitting there going, fuck all that. I don't want to do any of that shit. And I really rip into myself. I make fun of myself. I go, you don't want to do any of this. So we've got 3 lists, guys. We've got a future bucket list, which everyone talks about, all right, or what we want to do on our bucket list. So we go through the My Bucket List blueprint to organise that out and systemize it. We've got a reverse bucket list, which is your done list. All right. So you've got to build that out. And that's a huge gratitude exercise. So I challenge everyone to look at, you know, 3 to 5 things that they've done in their life as if it were on a bucket list all the way along. And people start to identify this stuff and go, shit, I've really done some stuff. It wasn't on a bucket list, but it was in my life. So write it down, claim it. And that build out that reverse bucket list. And that's really important. That's what they play at your funeral, after all. They show the best pictures and the videos and put it to your favourite song and then say, see you later. So build out this reverse bucket list. There's a real big gratitude exercise. And then you've got the third list, which is the fuck it list, which is all the shit that you do not want to do and you have no reason for doing it. But it's so individual. But I do challenge everyone to stop believing the story that they've led themselves to believe about themselves their whole life as well. I've seen people, they've gone, oh, I'm not a runner. I've never run in my life. It's like suddenly they've done their first 5K, 10K, half marathon, up to Ironman. You know, like stop believing the story that you've led yourself to believe and do something abnormal and not and for you, not because you want to look good or from an ego point of view, because you want to do it. And that takes some deep thought. That takes some real time out to think through.
And I like what you said. I think you also mentioned this in your TED talk too, which was that, someone may say, I'm going to start off with a 5K. Well, they finished their 5K. Now they're, searching the internet for the 10K. Do you find that a lot of your clients that create these bucket lists, it almost creates a forward momentum for them to try even bigger and better things?
I call it a bucket list snowball effect. It just gains momentum, and it builds and builds and builds. And I'm doing 5 things at the moment, and some of them small, some of them big, and some that are going to take a long time to achieve, and some nearly a lifetime to achieve. Some I'm going to get done by the end of the year. So it's but it gives you purpose. It gives you meaning. It gives you a reason for getting out of bed in the morning. And at the end of the day, it gives you a reason to earn money in your business and to scale and leverage and hire team members, and take advantage of the opportunities that are all around us in terms of our careers. And because I said a bucket list is a tangible life plan, where our business plan or career plan should fit into our life plan, not be the other way around. So it helps compartmentalize what we do on a day-to-day basis to spit out the time flow and the cash flow, for us to do what we want to do in our lives. The fact is that a lot of people, you've asked a lot of people's goals, and they are pay off the house, put the kids through school, do a bit of travel when I'm older. And I'm like, yeah, possibly sicker.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like what you're talking about really is developing a mindfulness practice and mindfulness tool of you looking at this and being able to say, okay, am I living the way I really want to be living? And that's going to be different for every single person, right? Because you're right. There's a bunch of stuff on that bucket list that, I'm not interested in.
Yeah, that's it. And like, call it mindfulness or consciousness, or just shining the spotlight on actually, like, real in the heart of hearts, what gives you personal meaning and purpose and fulfillment. And just asking that question. Some people go, I don't know, and they'll try and reel off something that they should say according to society. But what would honestly give you real purpose, meaning, and fulfillment? And I think right now what's happened during COVID is the world's taken, what I've seen anyway, because it's gone on so long. A lot of people have taken a big global collective deep breath in and recalibrated on that, and recalibrated on their happiness. Do I want to go back to my old normal of commuting for X hours a day to go to a job that I really hate? And, so many people have started other businesses, side hustles, invented, innovated, adapted to new technology like never before, and failed forward faster. And people have said no, people have quit, people have started new things. And this whole, what I call not work-life balance, but work-life blend, that definition of what work-life blend actually looks like is now upset forever in a great way. More families, I know for me, our family has become closer because of all this. It's a beautiful thing, because we've been hanging out and annoying each other. But the point is, but we've become closer. We've become, instead of the international, right now I should be in Brazil. Can't be. But what I have done is, the family and I've been a big proponent of this: be a tourist in your own hometown first, and we've discovered mountain biking. We've discovered all these other things that we may not have done if we just carried on.
So I have 2 questions. I mean, I can't have the bucket list guy on and not ask him questions about his bucket list. So I have 2 for you. One is, what has been the most impactful item that you've accomplished on your bucket list, and why is that item or action so significant for you?
Well, that's a group of actions, that one. It's a group of ticks. And I dare say it was, I'm adopted, and my dad, who I grew up with, him and I didn't really, speak the same language, didn't really get along, if you know what I mean, growing up. He's a mechanic his whole life, from the age of 16 through to retirement, same job. And a real like union worker, kind of man's man, not a man of emotion. And me, his adopted son, a serial entrepreneur. And he still doesn't understand really what I do. But the point being is, I wrote on my original list to do before I die, to do a big hike with Dad, because I knew that, I just wanted to reconnect with him. I became more conscious of it through all the personal development stuff that I've done, and realised that it was a source of despair for me. So I put a hike on there, with a hike with Dad. Before he knew it, this is probably 8-9 years ago, before he knew it, I found myself in a light aircraft with my dad and his two best mates and me, and our destination was the old growth forest area of southwest Tasmania. Tasmania is that island off the end of Australia. It's a state, and we got dumped in the middle of it, or down the south end of it. And the website said carry 8 to 15 days worth of food. The light aircraft dropped us off, pissed off, and our destination was to hike back to a place called Cockle Creek. And Cockle Creek is the southernmost town in Australia. All right. Have you seen The Deliverance?
Yes.
Mm. And so you get it.
Yeah.
The point being is, on that, that was an amazing journey. It took us 9 days to do it, all sorts of different river crossings and whatnot. And, I was about 500 metres away from the finish, just walking frustratingly behind Dad. And I said to Dad, just before we did the selfies, that we finished it and that had lunch and all, I said, Dad, there's been something I've been meaning to tell you. And I'm walking behind him, and he said, yeah, what? He's not a man of a lot of words either. I said, Dad, this has been on my doing this hike with you has been on my bucket list for the last 8 years. And in what I thought was going to be a big father-son, hug it out kind of moving moment, he's just gone, oh yeah. And I'm like,
you're waiting for the hug.
Nothing. We finished. We did the selfie. We had some lunch, and I could see him ticking over. And he's gone, Trav, what's a bucket list, mate? I've gone, Dad, it's all the shit you want to do before you die. Like you don't know. And he's no. Nah. And he's gone, right, because he said, I'm glad you put it on there because this has been fucking special. Still no hug, still no moment. I'm still waiting. Help me, Dad. But then we got onto the bus back to the capital of the state, Hobart. He said, "What else is on this list of yours, Trav?" And I'll get back to you. There's heaps of stuff on there. I'll get back to you. 6 months later, a friend of mine, New Zealander, who I used to ride with, he said, Trav, I know you've been talking about your bucket list. And he's a mountaineer. And I'm going to Mount Everest next year, in about 8 months' time. And I know you want to go to base camp in Everest. And I said, oh yeah. And he said, what you can do is you can come with us. We're going with a full-on expedition team. You can go to a base camp, or you can come to advanced base camp on the Tibetan side, instead of the Nepalese side of Mount Everest. And Grant said, I'm going to camp 1 and the rest are going to go to the top. There's going to be 13 summiters, hardcore mountaineers on this expedition. And I'm going, oh God, that'd be awesome, because, I'm doing it with one of my best mates, and that'd be absolutely awesome. How much is it? And he said, oh, 15 grand or something like that. And I'm like, I don't have, geez, man, I don't have it on me. I'm sorry. He goes, yeah. And this goes back to my point before. He said, yeah, but I know you want to go, and I know you'll find a way because you want to go. I know things happen. I had a deposit on a house and that fell through. And before you know it, I could make it happen. Dad. Yep. Down in Tassie, we were walking and I talked about that bucket list. You're going, yeah. I said, mate, we're we're going to Mount Everest. We're going through Tibet. Trav, where the fuck's Tibet? Look, it's part of China. Look, it's part of China now. It wasn't before. Blah, blah, blah. That's not the point, Dad. We're going to Mount. He said, but Trav, you realise I've never been out of Australia before. I said, exactly, mate. That's why we're going. Long story short, went to advanced base camp on Mount Everest. Have since gone to done a game drive through Kruger National Park and Mount Kilimanjaro. I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro with Dad as well. Went to Victoria Falls with him. Went to on the morning of my 40th birthday. We did the Inca Trail. I took another 10, 12 bucket listers with me. We did the Inca Trail and then finished on the morning of my 40th birthday at Machu Picchu. We did the Kokoda Track, which is an Australian pilgrimage in Papua New Guinea and the north of Australia, and finished the day before Anzac Day, which is our Memorial Day. Absolutely phenomenal. Dad and I are now best mates thanks to this whole bucket list concept.
That is awesome. Thank you. Wow. So the second question I have about your bucket list is, what is an item that maybe you have yet to cross off your bucket list that you're most excited about, and why?
Well, I'm a month away from publishing my first book. I'm in so many books. I'm in heaps of books. I even got chapters in books and stuff and co-authored, but I've never done my own. So I'm now only moments away from publishing my bucket list blueprint book, which has been it's got heaps of different stories in it and stories from other bucket listers and the whole philosophy. So that's going to come out soon. So I'm really excited about that one, but I'm really scared about the other. I'm really scared about the one that's on my list that I have committed to publicly, and that is to do a stand-up comedy gig.
You still haven't done it?
No.
I listened to you on a couple things. I was hoping he'd already done it, but no. All right. You're still keeping it as a mystery.
No, because of COVID, there's been no comedy clubs open. Is that a good enough excuse?
You could find a way.
Well, put it this way. I'm not going to tell you where it's going to be or when.
The suspense is
I don't need more hecklers.
That's so funny.
I'm already shitting myself.
Thank you so much for sharing the items on your bucket list. And I truly appreciate that, because I know for each person that's a personal thing. And so to share, I really appreciate that. So if you're good with it, we'd like to move to our signature questions that we ask all of our podcast guests. The first one being is, reflecting back, what would you tell your younger self?
Save all your money, don't party. Buy a house as soon as you possibly can.
It's practical.
It's practical. I love it.
Yeah, it's really practical. Look, I've got, my stepdaughter Jane. She's 22 and she's just bought her first house, and Charlie's not far away, 23, and it's exactly the advice that I've given them. But yeah, I think for the younger version of myself as well is, and I say this from a money point of view, is don't try and find out your passion, your why, your calling in life until you tried a shitload of different things. Don't just do a course, if you're young, don't go and do a course and try and find your passion and get really frustrated if you haven't got it. Just try a heap of different things, and go and find people that you really admire, that you follow maybe on social media, and be an intern for them. Follow them around, stalk them, and be, act dumb while you're young. Ask as many possible questions as you can, because that's the advantage that you have when you're young and you've got time. And so that'd be my advice.
Thank you for that. And looking forward, what one wish do you have for yourself or your organization on your current journey?
Our wish is to fulfill on our mission and vision with our bucket list network now of all of our coaches around the world. And that is to help people live purposely fulfilled lives and to help 10 million bucket listers tick it before they kick it.
So, no short goal or anything like that,
Well,
right?
I've even got
Tick it before you kick. I love it. Tick it
Yes.
before you kick it.
Yes,
Nice.
this is what we give all of our participants who do our programs or part of our programs, and we've got a big community of bucket listers on Facebook, and and so if you put hashtag ticket before you kick it into social media, you'll see a heap of our coaches and clients around the world ticking stuff off their bucket list. That's what it's all about.
Awesome. What a great network to kind of just support each other as, you all are living out your passion or your purpose. You can learn more about Trav at thebucketlistguy.com. We will link this information on our website. Have you put pen to paper with your bucket list? Let us know in our private Facebook community. We want to thank our producer and music director, Ron Johnson. This has been an Astronomicus DMR production. Thank you for listening. Remember, it's never too late and you're right on time.